you so much, Mary. We're really excited to be here, and certainly an honor to be invited under the umbrella of Melody's Music, because your store has brought so much to our harp community. So thank you for having us. Um, this is a topic, building harp camps, that Therese and I are so passionate about. It is so much fun to share knowledge and experiences with the next generation of harpists. It's fun to see their enthusiasm, and bringing them together is certainly a really important piece of all of this. But I think we have as much fun as the kids do when we're doing it. So I always look forward to it. Um, I hope that we're going to have some information today that's going to be of value. What would be helpful for us as far as directing our conversation is going to be if you could just jump in the chat real quickly and let us know if you are going to, if you're one thinking about starting a harp camp, just write start. If you want just ideas or want to grow it, write ideas or grow. And that's going to kind of help us facilitate things a little bit. Um, One other thing, if you have a festival that or a camp that you're already working with and your attendance is over 15 participants, just write over in the chat so we can get an idea of what we're doing. Starting up, this is great. Okay, so Teresa and I have been doing the Houston Summer Harp Festival for all 23 years that it's been established. And we've had as few as 12 students and as many as 40 participating. Every year is a different year. We all have two other faculty members, Hope Cowan and Susanna Wang, who now teach with us. I think they came in around the 11th year of the festival, and the Susanna came in a couple years after that. But it's something that morphs, um, but we have learned a lot along the way. We've also had the privilege and honor of being guests at other harp camps or harp festivals. So we've seen it from that side as well as the organizing side. Um, so I think really the first thing that I want everybody to kind of think about is, what is your goal? What are or your goals that you want for this harp festival? Um, for us, definitely bringing the students together who are playing a very isolated instrument, as we all know, was one of the big important things for us. Therese?
Um, yes, because if you're teaching, if it's for children and they are playing an orchestra, they're the only harp and they sit around and wait a lot. And this time, in a harp ensemble situation, they learn um, more about playing an ensemble. And even if they spend several months, excuse me, several months preparing the music before the harp festival, um, being in the community and hearing these other their colleagues, that's not the right way to put it, but seeing these other students at their level and maybe above working on this music, it really stimulates them and it accelerates their harp growth. They might, and they, if we have an opportunity and they play solos for each other, they might hear a solo that they would like to learn. Um, yeah, and we cover all sorts of stuff that maybe gets ignored in a harp lesson, like tuning, or changing strings, and many things like that.
Yeah, it gives us a chance when the kids are in school and so bogged down with their other activities and their homework and everything like that. I know I just really can't get around to everything, all the aspects that I wish I could. And having the harp camp allows you a chance to bring in some of those other aspects. Um, it's also, if any of you are at a school or a university, it's a way for recruiting, and a lot of universities have it there specifically for that reason. when I started it, the parents, my parents of my students were asking, can you give them some kind of summer activity? And now since then, camps have exploded and there's every camp for everything in the summer. But I think you still have families and students that are focused on music and want to be able to participate in a very unique way. Playing in a harp ensemble is not playing in a school orchestra. It's completely different. They can all talk about things that they relate to, like broken strings and having to move the instrument and all of those things. So there's a way that they can connect with somebody that they can't really connect the same way with if it's somebody else in the orchestra. And honestly, aside of those wonderful aspects, it was also a way for me to boost some of my summer income. And that's an important piece too, because it's a lot of work. And I needed to help kind of tie over some of those months. So I looked at it as certainly a win-win. So besides the besides all of that, when we were looking at the focus for the Houston Summer Harp Festival, and our website is houstonsummerharpfestival.com. We don't have it updated yet because we'll be opening registration next month. But I targeted the first things that you see on that page are exploring the world of harp, bringing young harpists together, developing skills, and fostering musicianship. So it's fine if the students in my studio and the parents that know me, they sort of know my teaching philosophy, which is I want to nurture the love of the instrument. And I think if kids are enjoying learning along the way, they're going to keep coming back for more. They're going to want to learn more. So it's important for families or students at this point, since we've grown so much, to have an idea of what we are all about right off the bat. So I think having those 4 points were the things that sort of surfaced the most for us in our direction with the Harp Festival.
So I think we should talk now about would be your students. You should decide if you want to have this be a festival for children or for adults, or a combination of the two, where you could decide if you had the combination that you had the children in one group and the adults in one group, but there also are festivals that have them combined. Uh, it's basically what you feel like your abilities are as a teacher. It can be very difficult to have a class that has adults and children together, just because the learning styles and abilities are very, very different, and adults have a different focus than children do. Um, and are you going to have, what level are you going to want to have? Our Houston Summer Harp Festival, we have middle school and high school. And but they are divided. They mostly self select what group they're going to be in, or their teacher helps them. And uh, so we might have a high school student in one of the in with a younger group, because the high school students just started playing the harp, maybe plays piano for years. Um, you could even have a festival where you were actually, whereas it was a 3-day learning how to play the harp. You would most likely need to provide instruments, and you could include the rental of the instrument, include that in your fees. Um, but also you could get certainly your own students, your colleague students. I think it's really important, though, that if you're getting colleague students from your location, your locality, your area, make it very clear that this festival is not something to, you're not trying to have students move into your private studio. We have worked really hard on that. We have many teachers that in the Houston area that come that send their students to our workshop, and we are not interested in having them change to us. Now that has happened occasionally, and I think the best way to handle that is that if you have a student come to you and say, I want to start studying with you now, that you talk to their teacher, call their teacher directly, and so to clear that up, just to avoid any problems.
It doesn't come up very often. And
No.
I think, um, as far as combining kids and adults, um, I think there's pros and cons to that. I've also directed, I think, 11 festivals now under Harp Journeys for Adults. And I wanted to specifically come up with a curriculum for adult beginners and intermediate level, where they didn't feel like, the high school player was just playing circles around them. They have a different set of needs, and as Therese said, a different learning style as well. So I think it's always been nice to sort of separate them, but it doesn't, you can combine them at the same time. I think if you've got multiple teachers and you've got the adults in one group and the kids in the other group, it doesn't mean you can't have them all together. And that depends on the adult as well. Some adults don't care, they just want the opportunity to play. Um, but that's just some thoughts and ideas about that. So the logistics obviously are really important. We're going to go through a few logistics, and Teresa's going to start off talking about venues.
So if you started your festival like really, really small and you had a big home, like let's say you had 3 or 4 or 5 students, you could do it a 3-day weekend and you could have it in your home. And you could even choose to have a final recital in your home if you had the right kind of space. But you could have it at your church or one of your students' churches, and it doesn't you don't have to have the recital be in the sanctuary. It could be in the fellowship hall, or even I have done a harp ensemble recital in the bride's room, because there's a massive church that had a massive bride's room. It's kind of like a big living room. Um, but you'll want to get get your students to help you with that, and you also could offer, if you were able to get a church, you could offer to have maybe students play, or you play at a service in exchange for it. You certainly that's the you certainly have to deal with if there is a financial issue. There's a fee, and you're going to have to think about your budget, how many students you expect to have, and what your final budget is going to be, what you're going to charge your students. Um, so there is something that many venues are requiring now, and that is you have to take a course which can be done online now. Um, that is an educational course for certification for being able to recognize sexual abuse and child molestation. And it's a really pretty simple thing. It gives you some information to learn about, and then it'll have like a quiz. My first time I did it in person, went into the school's office and watched like a video that had 3 segments. And then the last time I did it online. So I don't know, uh, if that, the online is very, very, very convenient. Um, and then you usually have to send in the certification to the venue. And then um, food policy. Um, when we have done it at the college campus, we have our lunch in the cafeteria. But if you don't have that kind of venue, the kids could easily bring their own lunch. They're used to doing it at school all the time, and or if you wanted to get the moms to help out with that sort of thing, I think it's probably easiest just to have the kids bring their own lunch. We also have, after class, we also have snacks for them, and which is nice. But again, you don't have to do that because kids are used to bringing their own food. Um, so I think it's Kimberly's turn now.
Yeah, so I was adjunct at Houston Baptist University, which is now Houston Christian University, when I started this festival. And so that is how we acquired that space, and they have allowed me to continue doing that, even though I've moved away and I'm no longer have that position with the university. So, uh, looking at schools and universities, private schools, it's just about finding out what the policies are. But you can start kind of thinking about possible spaces and even chapels, something like that. One of the things that you're going to want to decide is whether you want to do a commuter festival or camp, or try to provide overnight. And when I first started, I did not want the responsibility of kids overnight. I just did not. And for several years, we were a commuter festival. Most of our students were Houston based, which worked out fine. It's still a lot of driving for a lot of the students, and I knew that we could have more students participate if we were able to give overnight accommodations. So before we actually started using the dorms at the university, and it's not required, they have a choice whether they can stay or commute. Um, there were some families, some of my own families in my private studio, who hosted a couple of out of town harpists. And I decided to stop doing that at one point, just because of, more awareness, and people, you never really know, and just not having issues, not having potential issues from the families if something did come up within the host family. So we opened up the option for the dorms. Um, I had thought also about getting like an Airbnb for some of the kids, and maybe that's your venue as well. And then the ones who can't commute um, would be able to stay at the Airbnb. Those are just ideas. So ours is a hybrid, and it works out really well. We typically have about a third of the students who do come in and stay in the dorms. We do have out of state, we have a lot of out of town students, and this is the only way we've been able to really accommodate them. We would not have been able to get them so far. So one of the things too that the university requires, and I think probably a lot of churches and other spaces will too, is liability insurance. And that is really not that hard to get. The company that I've used, that the university, since they're all the camp people too, to get their liability insurance, is All Risk, ALLRISC, All Risk. And they just want to know how many adults are there, how many kids are there, what are the dates, and then they accommodate the requirements that the university knows, and I pay about $360. So that's for 6 days, because we start on a Monday and we end on a Saturday. We do our finale concert at 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning, because we have a lot of out of town students. And it's easier for parents to drive in early and see the performance, and then pack up the car and drive back to where they're coming from. I think also having something at the end of Friday, as far as a finale concert, when you have a festival this as long as ours is, the kids are awfully tired, and we are too at that point. And to have them performing when they're a little more refreshed is helpful. But the liability insurance, don't be surprised if that comes up when you're negotiating with your venue. And then just be really clear as far as the fees. I have to sign a contract with the university, and a lot of places are going to ask for that, which is not a bad thing. It's just, don't be surprised. And then there are, a few other considerations that you want to have when you're choosing your venue.
Yes, like how easy is it to move the harps into the rehearsal rooms? And like if it's going to be on the second floor, it's you're going to have um, an elevator unless you're using really really small harps, or are you going to is the where you park and where you go in, is it really 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 far away? People are going to need a harp dolly for that sort of thing, and you need to tell your students, your potential students, about that. Um, And is there going to be a secure room or rooms, depending on how many people you have, to lock the harps away at night? So everybody is feels safe about that. Um, our students do not take their harps home at the end of the day. Um, I think maybe one kid has done that once. Um, you have to decide your number of days. I would suggest start off small first, but and you also you how many students are you going to expect? I think Kimberly already mentioned our. I think she mentioned our first year we had 12, and we've had as many as 40. And I was looking at some of there's a couple of questions in the chat, and somebody was asking about age limit. So our Houston Summer Harp Festival is middle school and high school. And our ability requirement is that they have been playing the harp at least a year. And we tell them when they order their music that they don't have to play everything. They can play just one hand, or they can just play the downbeat of every measure. It's more important that they learn how to play in an ensemble. We also suggest, like, if you have been playing these particular solos, which are we choose things that are common for middle school kids. If you're at this level, get in this group, and that helps them self-sort. And I believe their teachers help with that as well. There's only been a few cases where, because everybody has decided to learn Harp 1 and nobody's learning Harp 2, that we have asked students to say, hey, the really advanced ones, hey, can you just right now switch over to Harp 2? And they always seem real willing to do that.
If they're not comfortable, then the teachers jump in
Yeah, yeah,
because we don't want to put anybody on the spot who worked on one part and is not at the level where they're comfortable switching on the spot like
yeah.
that. So a lot of times we've had teachers supporting the performance, just to kind of help the kids feel more comfortable. And we also tend to use, I know, especially with the younger level, I tend to play with the students a lot because that just helps them hear things and learn things faster. Um, Usually don't find it as much as necessary with an older group or a more advanced group, but it helps a lot with the younger ones. So I would certainly suggest you consider that when you're working with a specific part, or when you're trying to get them all to play around, then play together, then you can jump around on that. Um, so with registration, the next thing I have on the handout is forms, because we've kind of had to evolve over the years from being a little more relaxed to being making sure that we're covered with things and that the students are covered. So I use the way we have registration is they do register online. We used to have separate forms that they had to bring at check-in, but at this point, it's actually incorporated in our registration online. So they can't actually register unless all of those items are filled in. And that has helped us a lot with our paperwork to have all of that taken care of and all of that information together. Um, I think I do have an example. Mary, go ahead and go ahead and post. I just did a quick PDF of part of our registration that includes these forms, if that will help anybody with wording. Um, It's important to get a list of the food and allergies as well that students have, and the medications or any medical conditions, just so that we can, again, if something comes up, we're not caught by surprise. We're not trying to label kids, but it helps us to teach individually and as a group. And then, Therese, you want to talk about the instruments?
Yes. For students that have come from out of town, um, we have been asked to if they could rent a harp sometimes, and we charge a nominal fee for that, and the the student that is renting the instrument pays the owner of the harp directly. It doesn't go through the registration form or anything like that. Um, our ensemble, we have lever and pedal harp, and our 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 younger group, we always did all of the music is lever harp.
Mhm.
And but we do have students in that group that play pedal harp, and frequently in our more advanced group, um, our pedal harp arrangement might have a part that is playable on lever harp. We are totally inclusive of all sizes of harps. Um,
And that's just what we've chosen. I mean, I know some college recruiting festivals where they want high school players who play pedal harp. So again, it goes back to what your focus and what is your goals? Who are you trying to serve?
yeah,
We do have rental agreements. Oh, and with the forms, I should jump back because that kind of ties in with the instruments. We have an instrument release form so that when they leave that, we're not liable, the school's not liable, nobody's liable for any damage or anything stolen. Once it's left, they have to sign that release form. And if you have a renter, then the owner of the instrument would be signing that form. Uh, and that's just to cross all our T's and dot all of our I's. We've never had any issue with any damage to a harp. So, but I think it's important for the families to see that going in to it. Um, did you have anything more to say on the instruments, Therese?
no, I don't think so.
Okay. So the next topic I wanted to talk about is the scholarships and sponsors. Um, we want as many people to be there as possible. And we know that a lot of families are hurting right now economically. Um, so we have over the years, we've developed several different scholarships. Um, we're lucky to have the Gulf Coast Harpers, who's a harp chapter of the International Harp Society, or International Society of Harpers and Craftsmen, who sponsor two full tuition scholarships. And over the years, we've been able to dedicate those scholarships in memory of harpists who have been significant in the Houston area who have passed. So there might be a group or a harp chapter or some kind of musical group that would like to sponsor a student and be able to pay that forward. I also have just my scholarship pool, and that varies from year to year. But I reach out to my adult students for scholarships with the younger students. I Any contribution is helpful. I have at this point, we've got former students who have now got successful careers of their own. Some of them give back. Family, friends, to be able to see the students have an opportunity like this, a lot of people are in a position that can help. So don't be afraid to send out an email blast or start asking around, saying that you're trying to develop funds for scholarships. Some of the scholarships we give out are partial scholarships, and some of them are full scholarships. If somebody's coming in from out of town, I try to take that into consideration. And the students do have to go through an application process. We don't have auditions because, again, we're an inclusive camp. That's up to you to decide. If you're trying to maintain a certain level, you only want to work with advanced students, there might be an audition process. If your venue is only going to accommodate so many students, you might want to have an audition process. But for us, we've been fortunate with our space that we're not limited to that, to our numbers like that. So the partial scholarships are often enough for the family to be able to have enough money to cover the rest of it. And you can come up with your own guidelines. We have students that uh, submit 2 video recordings of contrasting styles, a teacher recommendation form, and which is online, and a very short essay about why they like to play the harp. So they do have to earn that scholarship, but I mean, last year we gave out more scholarships than we have ever given out. It's just a matter of tapping into people that you know, and $25 here and $50 there and $200 there is going to add up to help cover your costs and be able to provide some kind of salary to the teaching staff for all the time and all the effort that goes into this, because there is quite a bit. There is quite a bit of time and effort that goes into it. Um, in moving, does anybody, are there any questions that I'm not seeing in the chat? Everybody's good. We're going to definitely take questions at the end because I know everybody's coming from a specific place as far as what you have in mind. But right now, we're going to move forward and talk about the ensemble repertoire, which, as Therese mentioned, we make sure that it is lover harp friendly. I think that that's really important. We started with having two levels of ensembles, and now I'm going to put this away. We started off having two levels of ensembles. We have, because of our numbers now, we have a top advanced group. It wasn't just because of our numbers. We had some students that came through that were more advanced, and in order to accommodate them, we created the third ensemble. Now, prior to that, in order to keep those more advanced students interested, they played with the upper level ensemble, but the more advanced students also got one or two pieces extra. So that's kind of how I bridged it before I actually separated it into three separate ensembles with three separate um, uh, repertoire parts. Um, we started doing themed programs about 10 years ago. You don't have to. It's kind of fun though. And we've had we do the repertoire and we do the workshops around those themes. So just to give you some ideas, I'm going to just read off real quickly some of the ideas that we've had that we've done themes for. This year we're doing Harp Around the World. That's always a fun and wide open one for a lot of different repertoire. We've had Passport to France, where we focused on France, French composers, and how France has influenced the harp. We did We Got Rhythm. We've done Harp Through the Ages. We've done Harp Through the Year. We've done Broadway and movie themes. We've done Christmas in July. We've done Dancing with My Harp, which was a lot of fun because we had the kids playing polkas and minuets, and there's a lot of music out there, ensemble music out there that you can relate back to a dance. And that year I had a professional dancer come in and teach the kids some Irish stepping and the polka and the waltz, and just got them up out of their chairs and moving a little bit. So the themes are a lot of fun. Another one that we did that I'll mention is we did composers who are harpists, living composers who are harpists. And I was able to reach out to some very gracious harpist composers who we split the kids into small groups, and they were each group was able to do an interview with one of the composers. So again, it's don't be afraid of asking, because they were all so thrilled to be a part of it. And I'm talking about Deborah Henson Conant and Stephen Dunstone and Stephanie Curcio and Cindy Horseman all agreed to do these Zoom interviews with these kids, and it was thrilling for the kids to be able to talk to somebody like that. So those are some ideas. Um, Therese talked about, the teachers helping to choose the parts and each ensemble having, solos that represent the level of that ensemble.
So I started when I was a kid. I started playing the harp when I was 7. My harp teacher formed a harp ensemble. I don't know how old I was, 12, 13. And at some point, we always did Christmas performances, and later we did other times of the year. We had 15 harps usually in these ensemble performances. And back then, 2,000 years ago, there weren't a lot of publications that were for harp ensemble. But one of the things that you notice in a harp ensemble is sometimes you can't hear yourself play, and you might hear a mistake, and you think it's you, but it might be somebody else. Now, I do tell students, if you make a mistake, give the person sitting next to you a dirty look, but that's really not very professional. So, speaking as a person who has had experience as a student playing in harp ensemble and now as a teacher teaching ensemble, I my personal philosophy is I would rather have the harp ensemble parts be easier than that student's solo level, because they are doing a whole bunch of different new, sometimes new things. That is, playing an ensemble, trying to learn how to follow a director, and just the nervousness of performing in a group with a very limited amount of practice time. Now, I know some teachers believe in giving a challenge and having it be harder, but I think that can lead to a very unfulfilling performance for the student if they feel like they're hanging on by their fingernails. Also, I think it is better to choose fewer pieces than more, because if you have fewer pieces, you can work on musicianship skills, which is something that is very important to me. Like, let's follow the director. Let's think about dynamics. Let's think about playing expressively. Think about, when I have the melody, I need to play it out. But if I'm playing accompaniment now, I need to play softer. Um, that's really, really, really important to me. Now, another thing we do with the harp ensemble music is, we have, this, 1, 2, and 3 groups, and they all have their individual music. But we have several pieces that we've done for many, many, many years that everyone learns, and they form our finale. And one is the triptych dance. That's a very, very easy piece. I really recommend you use it. Everybody loves playing it, and I have been trying to get these students to memorize the melody for years and years. This is so simple. If you were to look for it on a catalog, Pierre Beauchamp is the composer, but actually, many people do not know that was written by Carlos Salcedo. Then the other piece we do is a piece called Clog Dance that I learned at a workshop decades ago. And I teach it to the students by ear, because it's a theme and variations. And the first year kids, they can learn hands together and just play that particular theme over and over and over, while the students that have been there for several years, they've learned more and more of the variations. And they seem to really, really enjoy that.
So we've made that a tradition to end our concerts every year with those two pieces. So the returning students enjoy that because it's something that they know, and it's part of a tradition. It's part of a group. We have about 50% students returning and 50% new each year. I love that ratio. That means we're doing something right, but we're continuing to generate new interest from other harpists.
I'd like
Um,
to say one more thing about the repertoire. This is from a question that someone left in the chat. And feel free to write any more questions you have in the chat. And that was someone had asked about therapeutic harp. Um, Neither of us are registered certified therapeutic harpists. There are several programs here in the US for doing that. So I think that if you wanted to have a therapeutic harp workshop, you might want to be involved in those organizations. I think you don't have to have a therapeutic harp certificate or registration thing to go play at a hospital or a nursing home. But that, I wouldn't feel comfortable having having that, and that is something that adult learners are interested in. Children usually are not interested in that sort of thing, just because they're not thinking. They might go play at a nursing home or their granny's nursing home, but that's usually not their focus at when they're children. Sorry about that, interrupting Kimberly. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's good. Because it does kind of swing it back. We're focusing a lot on kids, but when I've organized the adult festival, it's a different curriculum, and there is a lot of interest with therapeutic harp. Um, Another thing for the adult festivals, I think, to consider is that I think we keep the kids moving. We don't want them to get bored and they have lots of energy. For the adults, it's kind of nice to have a little bit more space when you're in your schedule. Have your coffee set up or your water and some refreshments so that they have a chance to connect more socially that way. Um, that's an important difference, I think, between working with the adults. Just give more space in between your activities with that. Um, I guess moving on to curriculum. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is fun. Teresa's already mentioned a couple of things about how to choose or consider your repertoire. With the theme, if you have a theme, it's really fun to come up with the workshops. I just went ahead and typed up on the handout, which Mary has posted in the chat, some of the ones that we've done over the years. And I'm lucky because Teresa specializes in historical harp and Celtic harp, so she gets to do that and bring that element in. We rotate the workshops. And why are we doing workshops? Because if the kids or the adults are playing all day, we all know what's going to happen to their fingers. So when you're considering your scheduling and your curriculum overall, there needs to be something else going on, unless you're doing something that's more like a half day where you have ensemble and one workshop. But you do have to consider the fingers for us, especially since we've got a full week. We can't have them blowing out their fingers on the second day because they are not going to get better in time for the concert. So it's fun to incorporate some of these other ones. I'm not going to read through all of them, but I'm going to highlight a couple of them. The teachers' performances, whether it's for adults or for students, I think they really enjoy hearing what we play and how we play it. And it doesn't have to be a long program. 20 minutes just gives them something to really be able to take in. Um, our mock wedding for the kids is one of the highlights. So we do a workshop on weddings, and we talk to the kids about, especially the older kids. Sometimes we have something else for the younger kids. So we split them up. Sometimes the younger kids are learning how to tune and put a string on, and the older kids, some of whom may also need to learn that, are in a wedding workshop. So at the very end of after our dress rehearsal, we do a mock wedding, and that was kind of concocted over dinner with Therese when we just thought of every wedding, everything that went wrong in every wedding that we've ever played, and our friends, and we put it all into one skit. And the kids have a lot of fun. It gives them a chance to just kind of have a little bit of a blowout and be silly at the end. So that's really fun. The guest presenters are, I think, an important piece as well. Um, we've had somebody come in for music therapy and therapeutic music, and to the younger camp, and there are some kids that really resonate with that. I think it's just important that they be exposed to as many different things as they're finding their way through their musical journey. And we also figure it gives us a break and they get to see a different face. So I always try to work with someone's strengths, and that includes the faculty. So, Teresa's specialties, of course, I'm gonna want to spotlight that. If we've got somebody else who specializes in another field, then I want to bring them in as well to have these conversations with these students.
And
Um,
these workshops, so like in a day, there's going to be two harp ensemble time periods, and there will be one or two of these extra things. However, sometimes we have an after school workshop that is like 1 or 2 afternoons after the regular workshop is over, the regular day is over, and that is an extra fee. And that can be a great way to boost your income too. And it sometimes when we've had that afternoon after school class, they have performed, if they've learned something or composed something, they perform it on the concert on Saturday morning, which is really, really fun.
mhm. The are another thing. I know a lot of you put in that you were looking for ideas. The skits are really fun too. Um, we split the kids up into small groups. I don't do this with the adults, but with the younger kids, we split them up into small groups, like four, three, four, five students, depending on what our numbers are that year.
And we try to have the group have younger, the whole age group, so that you don't have just the older kids and just the younger kids.
Right. We really try to mix them up. So for years we did famous harpists. So they each had to research the famous harpists that they were assigned and then come up with a skit for it for the end of the week that they presented. So, they were doing Salzedo, they were doing Harpo Marx, they were doing O'Carolan. And they really have a lot of fun with this. Over the years, we've changed it up. We've had them do composers. We've had them do, what did we do? Um, I can't remember. I'm blanking out now on some of the other ones that we've done. But to give them something to research, and not long, like they get 2 half hours on 2 different days and then the presentation. And we bring some props for them to play around with. It's another activity outside playing that is fun for the students, and it gives them that chance to connect because when they're sitting behind their harps, they can't have those conversations with each other at that time that way. So,
And
um,
they always get a list of the things that they need to include, because we need to learn something, you know. So
it's guided,
yeah,
right? So for famous harpists, when did they live? What was their main contribution? Did they write any music? Can you play a few measures of harpist? Um, it's guided.
yeah.
So I think one year we didn't have time to give them a chance to do the skits. And here's an idea. We raided Teresa's home and came up with a bunch of bags of just different various
Oh my.
things. And then we divided the kids up into small groups and handed them these random items and told them that they had to present something that had to do with a harp with those items.
Oh, and they always have to. They have to. Somebody has to play something on the harp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just ideas, just fun ideas. Okay, so staff with teachers, um, you want to network with the teachers in your area and include them. If you include them, then you're going to be including some of their students as well. Um, but I do focus on strengths and put people in places and teaching subjects that they want to teach. A lot of times I'll ask, what are you interested in teaching? And sometimes they come up with ideas that I wouldn't have necessarily come up with that are really good ideas. And it's like, okay, yeah, let's build that in. I want them doing what they're passionate about.
We always offer for the children. Sorry about that. We always offer a small private lesson during the week that's included in the fee. And in past, we have brought in extra teachers to cover all the students when we had like 40 students. It was very, very hard.
Mhm. So I know I want to give time for questions or discussion. So we're going to kind of go through this last bit pretty quickly. On promoting, I did put some suggestions down there. Probably not a whole lot that is a news flash to anybody. One of the things we have done in addition to what's on there though is we've made postcards and gone to Harp chapter meetings and had those postcards available to pass out at Harp Society meetings. That's also a way to get the word out. And of course, the website and the email blasts. I use Constant Contact for my email blasts, and that's always worked really well for me. You want to come up with some kind of timeline. If you're ordering camp t-shirts, you need to figure out how much time they need. When are you going to open registration? Yes, Teresa's sporting our first festival t-shirt. Um, you want to figure out when we're going to be opening registration in February, but I would send a save the date out as soon as you can in the fall. And then try to keep that kind of blast maybe once a month until you get to open registration. And then you want to start sending out, email blast a little bit more. Some families plan way ahead with their vacations, and we want them to be able to at least consider our dates. Um, you can also throw something together pretty quickly. So there's not a wrong way to do it. It just depends on how much you want to give everybody a chance to get it in the calendar. Okay, week of.
Okay, so uh, you need name tags. We always have orientation at the beginning of the week, and we tell the students what to expect. And I'm talking about children. Uh, they go to school 9 or 10 months out of the year. They know how to behave in class, and I expect the same things from the students. Classroom management, when you have a big group, is really, really important because we all want to be nice. We all want to have a good time, but we have to have some rules, and uh, we're flexible with our schedule. The kids always want to know, what's happening next, what's happening next. And Kimberly is she's a master at coming up with the schedule, and we're going to spend this amount of time at this thing and this thing. She's a master at it. I could never do it. Um,
But we don't tell the kids what the schedule is
no.
because
Uh,
sometimes we have to change it.
Yeah, and sometimes on the first day or two, we might have a few tears, especially among the young kids that maybe this is the first time they've ever stayed away from home, or we've had a few kids that are really, really, they want to strive and they want to be good and they feel like they're not good enough, and there'll be a few tears, which always gets me, I don't know how to handle a child's tears because I don't want to make anybody cry. Uh, you should have sometimes students get ill, sometimes faculty gets ill. And another thing is safety. I don't have children of my own, but I feel like if I am given responsibility of taking care of these children, that I don't have a right to be flippant about their safety. And when we all walk to the cafeteria together, and then sometimes the kids want to come back. They finished eating and they want to go back to the classroom. They are not allowed to go back unless they're in groups of 3 or more. And we have rules about where they're allowed to go, where they're not allowed to go. And if you have students stay on a campus, you have to have chaperones and you have to have very strict rules for everyone's safety. We do try to have, it's helpful if one of the parents can help out, can be there to help out. One year, several years actually, we actually had a parent who was a nurse, and that was nice. That was nice to have that. It's not required, certainly, um, but you just have to be able to communicate with the parents and communicate with the kids too, because sometimes the kid will text their parent, their mom, about something that upsets them that they may not come and tell you about it, and then you'll get a message from the mom saying, what are you doing to my child? Or my child has this concern. So you just have to be really, really flexible.
We want to always have a supportive, encouraging environment. We like to have giveaways. I
Yeah.
I do giveaways with my old journals. Um,
We've contacted the Harp
schools.
companies, the Harp businesses, and had them send us catalogs or send us pins or, swag.
Yeah, a lot of
That's
the
been good.
vendors have in the past contributed to, sending bags or music or something that we can hand out to our students. So that's a really neat thing to be able to give the kids a bag. I got some bags from the Utah conference, and they had a bunch of extra ones. And so we handed them out for the kids on the first day when they checked in to keep their music in. So you again, just don't be afraid to ask that. And I'm going to circle back around to one thing real quickly, and then we're going to open it up for questions. With orientation, um, I know at that age I was extremely shy, and it would have mortified me to stand up in front of a bunch of kids and have to tell them about myself, why I started the harp and, what school I go to and that kind of stuff. So we pair the kids up preferably with a returning student and a new student, and they interview each other, and then they introduce that child to the rest of the group, and we do that on the first day as orientation, and I give them enough time to kind of get to where they're talking back, and I suggest some things that I want to know about them, and how did they get started in the harp, and do they have a pet, and just things like that, just to get them talking to each other.
And we have found some surprising connections. Like somebody's into horseback riding, somebody else is into horseback riding, and
Yeah.
it helps a lot
Yeah.
with
What are your
friendships.
favorite hobbies? Yeah, absolutely. So that's a good way. I know there are a lot of different icebreakers. It's really good to do that and give the kids a chance to kind of talk and open up a little bit. So, Therese, if you don't have anything else more to say, if you we can either on the chat or if you want to raise your hand, let's I know, again, everybody has a different situation that they're thinking about, and maybe we can throw some ideas out there. So, does anybody have any questions or discussions?
You can just unmute yourself if you have a question and just ask it.
We did so well. Nobody has any question. No.
We should have our little forum for introducing each other.
I think you were very thorough.
Okay, well, I know everybody's got a different situation though, so
And I guess I have a question for other people. Oh, Helen, did you have a question?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
hi there. Thanks. Thank you for your that was a really interesting presentation, and it's given me a lot of ideas. Australia, I'm in Tasmania here in Australia. Um, and we only have a fairly small population here, so I'm not sure that we would have, something as big as what you're saying, but certainly, where I live, perhaps a day workshop would be something that I'd be looking at doing. Where do you get your music from, and how do you handle
oh,
copyright and all of that sort
oh
of
my
stuff?
gosh, thank you so much. That was like I had that start on my page and I did not do
Yeah.
that. We choose the music, and then honestly, I usually run it by Mary because I have had music in my files that is no longer in print. And before I put it out there as required music, she tells me if she can get it or not. Um, so usually the students buy their own music. There are times where I've had I've wanted a certain piece, and there's a lot of pieces where you can purchase them individual parts so that you're not spending the whole $20. You spend $3 for harp one. There have been times when that hasn't been available through Mary's store, and I have called her up and I'm like, can you put this up as parts so that we can keep this affordable for people? So don't be afraid to pick up the phone and talk to Mary and see if she can do that. The other thing is too, and just tell me, make sure I'm on the right track with this, Mary. But for certain music where that is expensive, that will not be sold in parts. If I have enough, like if I have a book that has four parts in it, but you can't buy the parts individually, um, that means that I have that book with four parts. And so
Mm.
what I will do is I will assign, because usually the students pick their own parts. I'll assign the part and I'll send them only that copy, but they have to give it back to me at the end
Yeah,
because I have bought four parts that can be used. So
Yeah.
as long as I'm retrieving the copies afterwards, I think we're okay with that. I know last time I checked copyright rules. Mary, is that still your understanding? Because I know that changes.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And didn't you one time, uh, I don't know if it was Frank Volts or somebody, prepared something specifically for your harp camp. So don't be afraid to ask the actual composer or arranger. They might just say, "Here, I'll fix it all up for you," you know. But my philosophy on buying a piece of music where like four or five parts are in one book, and this might be a little off topic, but if you have an ensemble, just buy one copy and then Xerox the rest of the copies for your ensemble because it's so expensive. You don't, and I think it's silly to have for each person to buy all four parts. So that's my theory.
Right.
Four parts, one person buys it and they give it to their friends, and that's fine.
And there are more stores like Mary's store, but also composers that are doing digital downloads.
Mhm.
Um, and also, one year we did something where all of the faculty arranged a piece, and that was a lot of fun too. Because you can arrange something on your computer, and it sounds great, but then you get it in the harp ensemble, and it's like it doesn't sound great. And so
No,
it's
that's another that yeah, that's a great point. If any of you are arrangers, having your parts being played like this before you consider getting them published is a great way to have the guinea pigs play it and you sort out all the kinks so that you know you've got your really high quality product that you may publish.
and there is so much now published for harp ensemble. You're going to find that there's certain composers or arrangers that you like if it has Stephanie Curcio's name on it, I love it. If it has Frank Volt's name, I love it. And then there's others, and then you also find something like you look at the part and you go like, no, this is not, it's not, my teacher used to say it's not harpistic. Yeah.
Yeah. If y'all don't know, with Stephen Dunstone's music, that's another favorite of mine. He's got some really, really nice music out there. But yeah, last year on one of the pieces, we bought a very expensive French publication, and between the teachers, we had, I think, three or maybe four books, and that covered the number of students that were going to be playing that because again not everybody's playing all the music. It's fun to have everybody do the full ensemble with all the ensembles playing the last couple pieces of the concert, but yeah, if you've got the number of parts of originals then you can make it happen. Not everybody needs to be buying, not everybody can, but see if you can buy parts.
yeah, that sounds great. And so I was just I actually, this is a question for the group. Does anyone know if there is the Four Seasons, Vivaldi's Four Seasons, arranged like a simple version arranged for harp? Because I've kind of got this, idea to run these workshops and have this, Four Seasons kind of theme, across a few workshops and, maybe one per day type of thing. And I just thought, there are some beautiful themes in there that someone must have arranged it. But Mary, do you know anything about that?
It's not coming to mind right now, but My mind is like that. So no, I can look it up, and it seems to me I just saw a Four Seasons for simple harp, unless it was for simple piano.
Uh,
I'll look.
there may be a Frank
Thanks.
Volz arrangement for harp solo. And by the way, there is nothing wrong with choosing a solo. And
Yeah.
some students can play right hand, some students can play left hand, some students can play both hands. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with choosing just a solo.
Yeah. I know Daniel Burton has the Four Seasons out as harp solo. Um, that might be something that
Yeah.
you could take as an arrangement. Um,
Fantastic. Yeah,
you know,
thanks.
you could work
Sometimes
maybe from that rather than going from scratch. I started arranging one of them at one point, um, but it never got to a completed state.
there's too much. You just want to do everything, and then it just doesn't. There's no time. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
M- Mary Muckle, did you want to say something? I noticed you unmuted yourself.
Uh, no, I hadn't. I've enjoyed this very much. Actually, something that came to my mind, what is it? Bouchaud's book. There's an arrangement of on a harp ensemble, two-part of Vivaldi concerto for one movement, the Andante, for two mandolins, which is really quite lovely. If you're looking for something by Vivaldi.
Great. Great.
And Mary Muckle has a book on ensembles. It's a big book, and it's fairly new. And she has made a lot of ensembles too that are very good.
Yeah, it's my
So
passion.
yeah, it is.
Ensemble.
It really is her passion, and it's an ensemble tutorial.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you
Oh,
for doing that, Mary.
yeah, I'll look at,
Oh,
I want to look at
she,
that.
Yeah.
she
I
worked on it really hard.
I
And you
think
helped. You helped with the editing of it, for which I was very grateful.
And you were a very, very particular proofreader. And she went and
Indeed.
reproofed everything. It was very
Yes.
good, very well done. Yeah.
I
Thank you.
think I think in choosing music, just another thought when you're looking at parts, like if I've got a younger or less advanced group, I'm not gonna have all the pieces that I pick have three or four parts because there is power in numbers. And at that level, they need that support of having, more than one or them being the only one playing that part because they're hearing these things that they're not used to hearing. They're used to playing their solo and their lesson. And so now they're hearing all this other stuff and they're trying to sort through that. So I'd make sure that there are some duets in there. It doesn't mean not to do, I'm not suggesting don't do trios and quartets at a less advanced stage, but I wouldn't pick all trios or quartets
And
for a program.
they've been practicing at home just their part, and maybe their teacher plays one of the other parts in the lesson, but it does get confusing for them. Now, there is something to think about when you're looking at music. We did an arrangement last year of the Debussy First Arabesque, and Harp One, you know, had the main part, and Harp Two played accompaniment, but then it switched, and then it switched. And when you have a lot of very different levels, your more advanced students are going to pick what they think is the harder part because they want that challenge. But then when the less advanced group plays the melody or the accompaniment, it kind of disappears. So it can be easier to have, like this part always plays the accompaniment and this part always plays the melody. There's advantages. The switch is nice if you know that you're going to have equal skill levels.
Mhm. And we don't know walking in what we're going to have. We can have really advanced group that graduates, and the next year we don't have anybody that's that advanced. So I like picking pieces that have multi levels within the parts so that you
Mhm.
do have a more advanced one. And I'm not saying don't pick an arranger that likes equal parts. And I am speaking more for like the intermediate advanced levels. But I just find that with our wide range, and not knowing the students, and not like they're all coming from my studio and Teresa's studio at this point, and we could look and say, oh yeah, piece would be great. We can't tailor the pieces to the students specifically. So picking something that's got, whole notes on a part, that's an option, or a simplified optional part to the piece is important for those who aren't as comfortable in an ensemble or with their reading.
And I think someone mentioned before, maybe Therese, playing lower than what the solo level is. So it doesn't matter if it's that little bit less than something that they might have worked on for 6 months. It's more coming in at that level and being able to get some success in that group on that day.
Yeah, and being able to walk away from an ensemble, that you've worked towards an ensemble camp or festival, and to be able to walk away with a solo, I mean, that adds the longevity.
And also, we do have to think about our client. Is our client the child, or is our client their parent that is paying the bill? And the parents want a beautiful recital at the end of the week. The parents do like music they recognize. I mean, they love all of it that the students play. But whether it's a classical piece or a pop piece, the makes the parents very happy to hear their children play well, and even something that's recognizable.
Mm-hmm.
And the adults just want to have fun. I mean, they all want to have fun. That's it. I mean, we just want to have fun with it. So, anything else? Any other
I just
questions?
want to mention that you can tell that these two are so amazingly organized and amazing musicians. But if you have a student from out of state, I happened to be at the festival last summer and it's so well run. I stayed in the dorms, the food was good. So just really, if you have a student, I would encourage you to send them to this camp if you haven't made one yourself.
Yeah. Miranda was one of our guest presenters, and we've had guest presenters on Zoom as well as in person. And it's nice to have Zoom as the option now because that opens up a lot of other possibilities. But Miranda did a wonderful presentation and performance on Grand Genet's music, which fit right into our French theme last year.
And she also led a expressive terminology quiz. They had a quiz they had to answer and pronounce the French words in the proper pronunciation. It was a game show sort of thing.
Well, thank you, Mary. Thank you all for listening to us.
Thank you. Yes.
Just
We have our contact information on the handout. Feel free to contact us directly if you think of anything or have any other questions that we might be able to help you with.
thank you both. Therese and Kimberly are going to be hosting from now on, and I'm so happy about that. Next one is Simber Lily Quinn, and she will be doing the IMAC Perry Play the Blues. It's a taste test for her class. And then Charlotte Meisner, who is on right now, she's doing tips for technique. And after that, Anna Dunwoody is going to be talking about repertoire. And then after that, I think in May, Laura Sherman will be doing a Bach presentation. So we've got some nice things lined